The following program is being presented to you by a community producer. The statements, views, and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of ALC TV or the City of Avon Lake.
Welcome to Common Sense. The Common Sense program is a series of shows that feature interviews with interesting people that will help us learn in a clear, concise, and direct way who these folks are, what they do, and what makes sense to them and what doesn't. I'm Rudy Breglia, and today I'll be interviewing the innovative and wise entrepreneur, CEO, and business owner, Lorain County Commissioner, Vice President, David J. Moore, and now candidate for re-election. David, thank you for your public service, and welcome to Common Sense.
Oh, thanks, Rudy. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, give us some background now, where you've been born, where you were born, where you've lived, what brings you to Lorain County?
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Flint, Michigan.
Okay.
And my father's a teacher, and my mother was a nurse, and started out in an inner city trailer park. That's kind of was the thing back in 1961. And during the 60s, we had 5 brothers and sisters. And being of Irish Catholic, you know, they were about a year apart before I turned 6. There was 5 of us, so we're very close in that family.
That's wonderful.
Very close in that family. So we grew up in the suburbs of Davison, Michigan, which was outside of Flint.
Okay.
My father eventually bought a home there. And I graduated in 1980. And I've always overcome obstacles. I'm one of those guys that likes to, I don't want to say fight, but you know what? When I went there, I applied for the University of Michigan.
Okay.
Growing up in Flint, you're either a Michigan State basketball fan and a Michigan football fan. That's kind of how I grew up.
Okay.
And I wanted to go to Michigan. I just wanted to go, and that was my thing. And I was turned down because of even though I was in the top 20%, you take out certain grades, and I didn't qualify. And I'm like, what? I mean, I was devastated. So how do you overcome that?
Okay.
So my dad went down as a teacher and said, I promote University of Michigan Flint. You know, they had an Ann Arbor, a Flint, and a Dearborn.
Okay.
And my dad said, I'm always promoting it because, you know, we didn't have money. And so it was affordable for me to get that education and still live at home.
Understand.
Well, they had a program called the Challenge Program. And it was geared towards those people to basically get a lot of affirmative action issues. And so it was about a class of about 300 of us. And if we could take that summer class in 21 credit hours, and we passed that, then we were accepted into the University of Michigan,
Gotcha.
which is how I got in.
All right.
And college was tough. I'm not, it was very hard for me. I'm not I wasn't really a fan of it because I was still living at home.
Okay.
It was like extended high school. But it took me an extra year. It took me 5 years, but I got my Bachelor of Business Administration.
Stuck to it.
And in 1985, when I graduated, the jobs were out there like, you know, you're looking around and they had like, oh, how about the assistant manager at Wendy's? They actually flew me to New Orleans because they loved the work ethic of the Midwest.
Okay. Understand.
Yeah, so I went to New Orleans and realized, and back then it was like $19,000 was a lot of money that year, and I decided not to take that job.
Okay.
I decided to come home. I proposed to my wife, and
always wise.
Yeah, I proposed, and we said we're going to get married in '86. And in the meantime, a friend of mine told me about a company called Household Finance, and you actually got to wear a tie. So it wasn't, you know.
Okay.
I kind of went.
Professional.
Yeah, I went to got a bachelor's in business. So and that's what I did. I worked up in Flint. I worked in Pontiac. I kind of worked around there, and then I actually got transferred around to areas in Kentucky. I was becoming a turnaround guy. I'd go into an office, and I'd turn that around.
Okay.
And so I moved there. Then I moved to Lima, Ohio, and then I moved to a city called Elyria. And I couldn't say, I'm like, Elyria? Oh, it's Elyria. So I moved to Elyria. We had like 54 branches in the state, and they were like number 52. And it took me about a year to get that branch up to like number 2. And so I really loved the area because when I came downtown, it was like Elyria was like, wow, they had these Civil War memorials. I was really into history and the Civil War. And
nice town square.
Oh, yeah, they had an ice cream social. You know, the only thing missing was the Music Man, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and I thought, this is a nice place to raise a family. So we bought a home on Poplar over by St. Jude's, and I decided that I was done with corporate America. I always wanted to own my own business.
Oh, okay.
You know, and just had a baby girl, and I decided she was about 1 year old, and we decided to start a company, my wife and I. And we were like, okay, it's going to be a mortgage company because I'm in finance.
Okay.
So what do you name it? Well, I'm a big history buff of Ohio, like Tecumseh and Simon Kenton and all these in the 1812 era, you know, and I was really into that. So I wanted to call it Tecumseh Mortgage. My wife's like, you can't spell it or say it. Come on. And she said, how about Star or Crystal? I went, oh, okay. So we started a company called Crystal Mortgage in 1992. I sold it in 5 years. I grew that company from just myself in the basement of my home to 350 employees in 28 states.
Oh my God.
We were one of the largest mortgage brokerage firms in Ohio. I did sell that company in January 1998. And then I decided it didn't work out on the transfer because the industry imploded in August of 1998. And what people don't realize, everyone knows about 2008. But nobody realized in 1998, the bond market collapsed and our industry collapsed. But nobody really knew about it because that was on page 3. On page 1 was the definition of "is" from President Clinton. And so that was going on. It was all that kind of press, but nothing about the financial industry that was about to collapse. So we parted ways, and I started another company, a mortgage banking company, in which my partner in Kentucky was running. But at that time, you know, I had 2 more children, so we have 3 daughters, and I decided the city of Amherst decided to kind of go to war with me on some issues, and I won. I got a lot of media coverage because, like I said, I'm a fighter. There was some inappropriate letters that they were sending to me for inappropriate taxes, and I won. And the Republican Party, came to me and asked me to run for county commissioner in 2000. Now, at that time, I thought that was a nice honor that I was asked. What years later, I found out I was the 4th person. The first 3 said no. So that's kind of what happened there. And I ran and became the first Republican commissioner since 1956 to win. And I was only 38 years old. And so I ran, and I went, you know, what's the job do? They said, well, you're the administrator. You're the budget authority. You oversee the budgets for everybody at the county, you know, the sheriff, the judges, the prosecutors, the clerk of courts, the treasurer, the auditor, everybody. You know, and I went, I can do that. That's what I've been doing because, you know, my company grew so large. I went from a salesman to an administrator, and so it was a good fit for me. Michelle, or what's her name? Mary Jo Vassy was a commissioner. And Betty Blair was a commissioner, and it was myself. And I got along great with the 2 ladies, and because back then, you know, like me, they were worried about what's best for the county. Okay, and so we may have not politically seen eye to eye, but we got along. And so within the first 90 days as a county commissioner, I was looking over a lot of the numbers, and they were talking about building a justice center. Well, what I found out is that Justice Center was already up to about $85 million. And when they first started talking about this 4 years earlier, it was at $28 million. Well, they're going to refurbish the old one. There's all these talks. I'm researching it. And I realized that they had this whole building built with no computer cables, no phone lines, and something was going on. And so I basically started to do some investigations. I asked for the 2 ladies to say, let's reevaluate this budget. What's going on here? And we did, and it stopped. But then a lot of political pressures came in, and after about 4 or 5 months of reevaluating, they moved forward at a 2-to-1 vote to start the process over. I said I wasn't going to stop that process, but I'm going to keep a watchful eye on the dollars. So that project actually came in at $55 million. You know, not the 85 that it was at that point projected. And in the meantime, what happened was several people went to jail because I started to expose things. And how it all started was I asked one simple question. How much does it cost to turn the lights on? Nobody did a budget of the operational costs and what, moving forward, what was it going to cost to turn the lights on? And the reason
Okay.
why I asked that question was in Cleveland, they did the same thing, and they couldn't afford to pay the utility bills. They built this big old behemoth, and so like they couldn't even open that place up for 3 years. So knowing that history, I decided to apply that here. And so next thing you know, I exposed a lot in 2001, but it wasn't until 2 years after I left office in 2004 that finally the commissioner that I beat ended up going to jail. The architect ended up going to jail. The general contractor ended up going to jail. And a few other people did too. And so I'm not afraid to take on those type of tough challenges. But in the meantime, because I was so aggressive stopping the second largest project in the state of Ohio,
Okay.
a lot of pressure was put on me. And that's one thing I can handle is a lot of pressure.
Okay.
So there
Obviously.
was some frivolous lawsuits filed against me. I fought that. I won. The media attention was extreme. And then I realized my daughters were young. They were like 5, 6, and 9. And I see the cost when you have young children, when you're in politics.
You bet.
So I didn't run for re-election. I decided to get back into the business world, and we raised our daughters. My wife, Debbie, and I decided we raised our daughters. And the thing is, I missed it. It was just, I did love the public service.
I see.
Because you wonder sometimes with government, you think, do I have a voice? I feel like, is my vote going to count? Well, for example, I won that election in 2000 by less than 1 vote per precinct. So I tell people to this day, your vote counts. Because
Everyone.
that
Yeah.
saved the county $30 million right there.
Okay.
Okay? 1 vote per precinct. So every vote does count.
Okay.
So then I decided not to run for re-election, got back into business, raised our children, college.
What company was that?
No, that's Lorain County Commissioner.
Oh, no, I meant after.
After that, then what I started to do is I had a mortgage banking company
Okay.
called Lenders Diversified.
All right.
And so instead of having 350 employees, and what that company was doing was brokering. I had a banking company where we would have other brokers submit those applications to us. So we would take those applications, package them up in bundles of $2 to $5 million, and then we'd sell that portfolio to Wall Street, Chicago, and people would
Understand.
buy those papers up. I always tell everybody, if you really want to see what happened in 2008, it's called The Big Short, that movie. That's the best explanation of what happened in that industry.
Okay.
Because I was very, even though I'm very anti-government, that industry needed regulation and it wasn't being regulated properly.
Okay. So it got out of hand.
It got out of hand in 2005 and 6. It all started back in the 90s, but it really started getting worse. And I rode the ride up and I rode the ride down, and we were one of the last banking companies to be open in Ohio when that happened in 2008 through 2010. And so I was very involved in collecting and lending and that kind of aspect. So when you own a business, you have to, you're emptying out the garbage and you're vacuuming, you're collecting the debts, you're making the loan, there's everything. So when you own a business, be prepared to do everything you can. And so I was doing that through I'd say another 10 years working on other businesses. Because as that business closed up, I turned into more of a turnaround guy. So
Okay.
I would go into companies.
Going back to what you did
Originally
originally.
at my days in the 80s, and so I really enjoy that. I do enjoy going into a problem and fixing that problem, and it's just one of the things I really like to do. So
You have such a strong financial background so that you can see these things before they really emerge to be problems.
right. And what's sad is sometimes people call me all the time, and they wait too long. There's nothing worse.
Too far along.
I had a friend that called me up and he said, "Hey, I have a problem. My home's getting foreclosed on." I'm like, "Okay. Here's what we're gonna do." Okay, and he says, "Wait a minute." I goes, "Well, wait a minute. Did you get a letter?" "Yeah, I got my letter." "Okay. Well, the sheriff's coming at 11 o'clock today, and it's 9 o'clock." I said, "Oh my God, dude, it's too late." I said, "I can't
Yeah,
help you now."
yeah,
I go, "Here's
yeah.
what I can help you with." Okay, call them up. Let's work out a negotiated exit and try to help them that way.
Okay. all right.
Unfortunately, people just seem to wait too long sometimes because I do have a lot of knowledge. I've gone through a lot of ups and downs in my life. I call it, with my wife, we have a roller coaster life, you know? Things are going great, things are going bad, but no matter what, we stay the same.
What would you say to a person who wanted to start a business? What advice would you give them?
Well, when people ask me that, it depends on what you like to do.
Okay.
Because, I like the finance world, so when I got into that,
And be your own boss.
Yeah, well, I started to talk to people. So I'm taking loan applications at Household Finance. And if you were a business owner, I was talking to you. Hey, well, what do you think about this? What do you do? How do you do this? How do you do that? And it was always real estate people that own rentals. I would just crawl right up in there. How do you calculate what's a good deal? How do you do that? And this is back in my early 20s. So if anyone owned a business, I was always asking them questions. Because what people don't realize, when you own your own business, you better have a network of support around you. And if you don't, then you're on your own. And who do you go to? Who do you trust to say, is this, should I do this? Should I do that? What's the next path? And I was very fortunate because of my, working where I did work and meeting friends and making friends along the way, that there was these two women. And, of course, I'm 62 now. I was like in my 20s, and they were probably 42 and old to me, right? But they were sweethearts. And they came into my office in Kentucky. And this is what, they came in and they owned a business. I said, oh, okay, what do you do? They said, we own a mortgage company. I said, oh, okay. So I started asking questions about it. And they said, well, we'd like to run some deals through you. I said, okay, that's fine. Because that was our job, is to get as many real estate as we could. And then I found out after we did the deal, because I was just about making business, making loans. And I was raised by a very progressive mother.
Okay.
My father's a Republican, my mother's a Democrat. And she was, that's kind of how I was raised. Very woman lib. And my dad cooked at home as a teacher, and that's because with 5 kids, everybody shared. And so it didn't matter to me. Well, what she told me later, she took me out to dinner afterwards thanking me. I said, hey, no, thank you. You gave me the loan. And she said, no, you're the only man to give us respect. I went, what do you mean? They're giving you, you're getting a loan, you're getting this. She goes, oh, you don't understand. This is back in 1989. She said, people see us as underwriters, not as business owners. So because I treat everybody the same, fairly, that was one of my mentors when I decided to start my company. I could call her up and say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? What about this? And so if you want to start your own business, you really need to have a network of support. And you got to find something that, number one, that you like, which I hate that line, find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, okay? I mean, I love the business, but you're working, okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're good days, sometimes they're bad. But the bottom line is, you got to find something that you become an expert in, or you can learn to become an expert. And too many times people think, it's good if you want to buy a franchise, but to me, I didn't want to go down that path. And I was fortunate enough that in that industry that I could actually start it, in the basement of my home. Nowadays, you can't do that.
No.
Now they need a net worth. You need, because there was so much abuse in that industry, that the stuff that we were doing would be considered conservative today. And so we were very customer service oriented, which I like.
Okay.
And so again, it depends on your personality. There's a lot of businesses, like I'm not an IT guy at all. And this thing called the email was just coming out, internet. And we didn't call it email. We were saying, hey, I want to be able to communicate on the computer with everybody. So that's how early we started doing this, But we hired some key people to start this internet aspect of our company. And those were not the kind of people I'm used to dealing with. They were happy being in a room, 4 walls, and working all day. So if that's what you're thinking, there's tons of business opportunities there. But I wouldn't know what to tell you. So the bottom line is, I think if you can start your own business, have the support staff or a network of people that you can bounce your ideas off of, I think that's the key to success.
Okay.
Switch
gears a little bit. How did you reach your decision to run again for county commissioner?
Back in let's see, let me get back to this. In 2016, I was doing some turnaround work in Elyria. And I thought, you know what? I still had the bug, okay? And I thought, you know what? I think about maybe I should run for Ohio Republican Party Central Committee man. So I decided all you need is like, I think 5 signatures, whatever, or maybe it was 10. So I decided to run for that to see if people remembered my name. Because I've been out since 2004.
Yeah.
It's now 2016. And I decided to get involved and run for that seat. Because I thought, let's see how that works, because it doesn't pay any money, okay? It's a volunteer job.
You're not going to get rich.
You're not getting rich, but I thought it'd be fun to apply. In the meantime, a Lorain Countyan named Nick Brusky reached out to me. And he says, hey, Donald Trump called, or Donald Trump hired me to help his campaign. And Trump only hired 4 people in 2016. He goes, would you like to be a delegate? I'm like, no, I haven't decided who I'm going to back, and I'm going to run for this ORP position. He goes, oh, no. He asked me 3 times. I said no 3 times. Finally, he said, look, he hired me. It'll make me look good. I said, fine. There's 17 people running. I'll join up. And so I did. And what was cool is 40 years earlier, my uncle Ed was actually a delegate from Michigan for Gerald Ford. So here it is 40 years later. It was kind of cool. And I thought that was neat. And so I got involved, and we were the first City of Lorain. I talked to John Beard. He hooked me up with a facility, and we actually had the first brick and mortar for President Trump, when he was running in the city of Lorain. I wanted to be in Lorain to irritate the Hillary Clinton camp, which was right down the block. And so and next thing you know, we're on MSNBC. We're getting all this national attention. And then I won the ORP seat. So I'm going the Ohio Republican Party Central Committee seat.
Okay.
I'm going down to Columbus. I'm meeting everybody, and I was involved with the voting a new chairman named Jane Timken. And so the party was on the near bankruptcy. We turned the party around. The financially things that she started, getting money. I started meeting a lot of people, and then I ran again in 2018, unopposed. I won that, and I was still working on other projects at that time. And then I thought, you know what? I told my wife this, and I said, I'm thinking about running again for Lorain County Commissioner. And she's looking at me like, are you nuts? Because she's like, look at the abuse you took 20 years ago. And I said, I know, but I still love it. I said, and I'm now older. I said, I can take that kind of heat. And a lot of people can't stomach that kind of heat. I said, I can take it because I can dish it. And I said, and I don't have a problem standing up with what I know is right. And if I'm right, I'm going to hold my ground. Even if I get voted out, I don't care. Some of my best votes are my no votes the first time around.
Yeah.
And I felt that, you know what, I think I could win. And she says, well, if you think you can win, let's do it. And so I filed the petitions, we ran, we won. And then, that was the first time in 70 years that we had 2 Republican commissioners. Mm-hmm. So
what prompted you to run for re-election?
That's what I saw. Yeah, the re-election was this one. Okay, I'm sorry. Because technically somebody said when I ran in 2020, I said I was running for re-election. And they said, wait a minute, you weren't in office. I said, but I ran 20 years ago.
That's right.
And there were some arguments because I did say I was running for re-election in 20. And a lot of people didn't like that.
Okay.
And so with what we're doing now at the county, we had a lot of, I would say, chaos and drama unnecessary.
Okay.
And so I would say the first 2 years were not what I said I was going to do. I wanted to implement positive change, positive policy. Instead, it became drama. Okay. And so what happens next is Jeff Riddell wins. And he's not a politician. He's a businessman.
Uh-huh.
He wins. We bring in Jeff Armbruster as our county administrator, another businessman. I'm a businessman.
Wow.
Dan Gross, who's a friend of ours, and he owned his own business and retired. We brought him in. He's our facilities director. Self-made. Armbruster, self-made. Me, self-made.
So things are kind
Riddell.
of coming together.
And guess what? You would think with that much egos in the room, we get along great. And the beauty of it is when we don't agree, we can still go out and have a Diet Coke, And so the beauty of this is we all have our own passions. We are our own people. But you know what? We are getting a lot done. This last 14 months, we have done so much for the people of this county.
Okay.
In fact, we actually rescinded this, a lot of drama was going on regarding this radio contract. Well, we believe we saved pretty much $24 million for the people of Lorain County by rescinding that bad contract. And that's amazing. And by doing so, we're going to have a state-of-the-art system, communication network system. And it's going to be something that we don't care what radio you buy, they're going to work on the system. And so there's still drama around that because everybody, that issue turned political. And it shouldn't. It was a financial decision. It was the right financial decision. And the people of Lorain County are going to benefit from that financial decision. So again, like what happened with me with the Justice Center, by electing Jeff Riddell, and he won by a half a vote per precinct. He won by 136 votes out of 105,000. No, 158,000. That's right. So something like
Okay.
it was a not mine was 158.
He appeared on my show.
Did he? Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I was waiting for a contract. You never gave me one, so I thought, okay. So this is I'm just messing.
Yeah.
So anyway, so by again, I say it with Jeff's election, every vote matters. Think about that. One half a vote saved this county $24 million there. We've never had a strategic plan, so we're putting that together. We're now creating a 6119 for the whole county, and the whole county will then be under a sewer program where we can start controlling our destiny. Because wherever the sewer pipes go, that's where the development goes. Well, if we can have a countywide system, take the politics out of it and get it away from the commissioners and put it as a standalone, we'll be able to have some smart growth that way.
Okay.
There's some other things that we're doing that is coming up. We're talking to some big companies to transfer here because we got something Cleveland doesn't. We have land, a lot of it.
Okay.
And we have a lot of things going on there that I really can't say much now. Hopefully the next 30 to 60 days you'll read about it. The biggest thing people are talking about right now is the Elyria Mall. That has been a blighted eyesore for 20 years?
Yeah.
And I actually worked across the street from there for a couple of years and just looked at it. And I'm like, what an opportunity that's sitting there. But what happened? Why didn't anybody do anything, right?
Okay.
There was multiple owners, and they were all over the country. So these are companies that will come in and scoop up properties cheap and just sit on it, do nothing. Well, it took us about a lot of negotiating, 2 years, and we got everybody under one ownership, which was the Port Authority.
Okay.
So what we did is we did have a lot of ARPA funds and from the federal government. We used that money to replace some lost revenue in our account. And then so we had excess funds that we could invest in. We have an investment portfolio of about $300 million that the county has that we constantly are paying bills. It's about $500 million goes through our offices, job and family services, stuff like that. So we have accounts that are in short-term bonds, and we're averaging about, at that time, 1% to 2%. Now interest rates are up. So why not invest in ourselves? So we have excess funds. So we invested in loaning money to the Port Authority of $13.9 million. It's an investment in ourselves, and they purchased the mall, and the goal was to take that mall and then not develop it, let other professionals come in and develop it. And currently, in fact, tomorrow night, I don't know when this airs, but Wednesday night, there is another presentation at the mall. We had one last week, and we're letting the public participate. What do you want to see coming forward?
Okay.
But at the end of the day, and they know, the Port Authority knows that. It's a great board. They know that they owe us 13.9 plus 3.8%, interest. So we're making interest on that tax dollar money. We're going to get that back probably soon. And it's a fantastic project because that's the center of our county.
Right.
It's going to be really an economic engine to change, I believe, the center of our county. At the same time, with some of this other economic development that we have coming on the west side of the county along Baumhart Road, we're working on a lot of sewer projects there. And we're hoping to alleviate a lot of the pressures that Avon Lake's having with Loraco, because I know they are on the hook, or Loraco's on the hook with Avon Lake, and they actually pick up a lot of the shortages that Loraco has, which is the other 6119 that Avon Lake is actually helping with. So we're hoping by the end of the day, if we can do this right, we could maybe alleviate a lot of pressure that the financial pressure that Avon Lake is having right now, subsidizing Lorico. So they're subsidizing them for about over $1 million a year. So that's our goal is to take the 6119, help out Lorico, help out Avon Lake, help out Vermillion, who has a $76 million fine coming if they don't do something soon.
Oh.
And so we are but what I got is you got someone like Jeff Armbruster going fast, Rudolph, myself. I mean, we're all working together. We all know what our strengths and weaknesses are. And it's just a lot of positive energy and a lot of positive things that are happening, and we're all living within their budget. They tried when we won, first thing they did was they cut the sales tax, which is fine with me. So we have the lowest sales tax. Erie is higher, Huron's higher, Medina's higher, Cleveland's way much higher. We're at 6.5%. And so we have low taxes, and we've kept spending as tight as we could, and we're doing all this expansion. And the expansion is really coming from a lot of the ARPA funds and that kind of money. But also we're getting a lot of casino money, like about $4.5 million a year.
Okay.
Because interests are up, we're getting money on that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things because we dive right into the numbers, and we all have our own perception of what's going on with the numbers. But at the end of the day, it's just numbers, and it's revenue, and it's expenses, and how you spend that money is key.
Okay.
So,
Well,
I'm gonna grab another drink.
Yeah, sure. For what characteristics should voters be looking for in a candidate for commissioner? And I think you've already talked about it.
Yeah, sincerity. You know what?
Okay.
Can you read that? A lot of times, I always tell people, be careful when you hear a politician telling you what you want to hear.
Okay.
Listen to the guy.
They're doing it for a reason.
Yeah. You know what? And when I got into office, I'm not shy to tell people how I feel or what I think and what I do. And I'm proud to say what I voted on and how I've held my own. Sometimes I got upset. There were 22. They were giving away almost $9 million in nonprofits. $9 million that could have been used for sewers. $9 million that could have been used for infrastructure. No, they went. There's some things that got $5,000 for this, $5,000 for that. And I'm like, and so how do you vote when to me it's a protest. So I voted present because I was protesting the fact that I felt misspending that money. Now, by law, could they do that? Yeah, they did. There's nothing illegal with it at all. I just felt it was a misappropriation of tax dollars.
Okay.
And I said it all summer. This is just buying votes. That was in 22, and that bothered me. So you got to look at also people's backgrounds. There's a lot of marketing when it comes to running for office. And if you had a chance to hear anybody speak or talk to them, feel free. It's amazing how people just don't even come up and talk to me. I have no problem. They'll stop me on the street, stop me wherever, and say, hey, and I've had some tough questions. Why did you do this? And I'll tell you why. You may not like my answer, but I'll tell you why I did it. And in fact, that was some of the compliments I've got. You may not agree with him, but you know where he stands. And I take that as a compliment.
Oh, you bet. And you're very passionate about what you do. And
I love it. I do love the job,
Now, you've talked a little bit about it, but what are the primary responsibilities of a commissioner?
Well, you are the budget authority. So you're in charge of the money as it comes in. You basically have to vote on the budgets for all the departments, the sheriff, the prosecutors, the judges, the whole county.
Okay.
And so they present their budgets in August, and you sit there and you look at it, you vote on it, and then everybody sees what's our revenue coming in. And everything's all based on projection. This is what we think the revenue is going to be at based on history.
Okay.
This is what we think our expenses are going to be at based on history. And what I found out was I did a 10-year analysis of our revenue projections, and the auditor is conservative on his numbers by about 10%. Well, 10% of $80 million is $8 million. So I don't like the fact that we have to vote on a budget, and it's like it's in the red. But if I look at a 10-year history, that budget number is always conservative enough where I can look at it and go, okay, he's always been 10% under, sometimes 13. Well, I know we're going to have money. And right now, over the last 3 years, we've been keeping our, thumb on the money, and it's we're pretty pretty well good till, I feel 2026, 2027.
Okay.
We're pretty solid, without increasing the sales tax. And that's the next thing that people are going to start talking about, because let's say you want to pass a resolution to, one thing that's going to be coming to us is like banning windmills out in the country. Well, we're going to have public hearings for that, and we can vote on that. Let's say, you want to annex some property into your city. Well, that comes before us, and we have to almost like become judges. We got to swear people in, and then we make the decision on whether or not to annex that property.
Okay.
So we oversee solid waste, which is the recycling aspect of our county. We are in charge of ditches. We oversee that. Now the engineer oversees the roads, but all that money comes through us, and we're pretty much in charge of the infrastructure of this county. Now cities are in charge of their infrastructure. Like Avon has a great water plant, Avon Lake, and so, whatever the unincorporated areas, we kind of oversee that, your townships, so we don't really oversee the cities, because you guys are your own charter, your own government. But we oversee a lot of the county agencies that you hear about, Children First, Job and Family Services. We oversee the money that comes through there, the grants that come through. And there's probably, just under us, probably about 218 employees just under the commissioners. We have about 1,800 employees countywide, and that's what, we oversee, like the medical benefits for everybody. They haven't been updated since the 90s.
Okay.
They were still operating on the old system.
Okay.
So I'm kind of proud that we did revisit that and provided, better medical care, post and pre-op, all that stuff. And it's something that needed to be done. It wasn't easy. We took a lot of heat for it because people are scared of change. But it was the right thing to do, and we did it.
Okay.
And so there's things like that we do. And we decided to change how we do our meetings because it got to be every Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning. The public can't come to those meetings.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do when I became president last year is say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock. And then Friday at 9:30, in case we didn't do anything right on Tuesday, something had to be revisited. And then we take a week off because the employees in the commissioner's offices were working towards the meeting, and they weren't working on their jobs. So by us
so
doing,
this gives them time to
gives
do
them time. Here's some policies. Here's what we're working on, and we leave you alone next week. In the meantime, we got projects going on, so it's kind of hard to tell people I need you to work on this project on Monday, but then on Tuesday they're working for the Wednesday meeting. And then once that's over, guess what they're working on Thursday, and then Friday, then Monday, they're working on the meeting again Wednesday.
That's smart.
So
smart business.
Yeah, so we decided to apply some common sense. Nice name of a show.
Thank you.
I was wondering when I'd get that in. So we applied some common sense.
Appreciate that.
and that's what we try to do. We try to provide as much of that as we can and guidance. And that's why when I say I enjoy policy making, and the main thing about why I want to run for re-election is because we're only looking at about 14 months where I've had this kind of control. Where we can steer the county in the right direction.
Oh, I was going to say freedom to do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's like, without politics in the way, you got to remember the people like Jeff and I are not career politicians. We're doing it because of public service, and we love it. And so I'm running for re-election because you need to ensure that these policies stay in place, because when I was commissioner 20 years ago, everything changed within the first year. They got total control again. It was like, Mary Jo Vassy didn't win. They had somebody new there. Betty only lasted another year and a half, then she was gone, and then it was all brand new, and they went back to the old ways. So in order to keep, I don't like to use the word progressive, but in order to get these new policies in place, and as I call it, just simple management structure type day-to-day operations that are very boring.
Okay.
But I think it increases the morale of the employees because they know what they have to do. And with the strategic plan, hopefully future leaders that come after us will see that plan and say, okay, here's where we're going. So those are some of the things that we've implemented, and why I want to run again is to ensure that these policies continue. Because once you get that, it becomes a habit. It's going to be very difficult to change it. But when you're in office one term,
Yeah.
You know, it didn't take long for them to take everything away and go back to the old ways. So.
Okay. How can you make the activities of the Lorain County government more transparent so people can see exactly what's going on?
Well, that's one of the things I did last January.
Okay.
Beforehand, if you ever saw an agenda, it said requisitions, and then you'd vote on it. Well, it's like 4 pages of bills or 4 pages of money going out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'd vote and we'd go, oh, look, I didn't like some of those bills. I mean, first of all, we shouldn't be paying this much money for the XYZ. So I would say they'd make a motion to pass the requisitions. I would say, you know, I except for items number 642, 644, and 682. Public didn't see that. So when I became president, the first thing I did was we had a camera installed, a flat camera. So now what I do is, and Jeff Riddell has continued with this practice, is we put everything under the camera and we say, okay, requisitions, and we say, this is page 1. Any questions? And we call it, okay, page 2. And now the public is seeing it. And we're seeing the requisitions, we're seeing the advances, we're seeing the bills that are being paid, like the ones that are nickel and dimes, under 1,000. We're putting everything out there. And so by being transparent, because we are the budget authority, all the money comes through us, and nobody, I had more people in the townships come up to me and say, thank you, because they've always wondered where the money went. And by doing that little thing like that has really put, I think, a lot more trust into our administration and how we are moving forward, you know, investing your money in our communities.
A good business practice.
Yep.
Is Lorain County attractive to business?
I would say it is now. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you know, this is where the politics come in. Let's face it, Columbus is run by Republicans, whether you like it or not, okay? Republicans are now running Lorain County. So what does that mean? That means we're on the map. We are, you know, the 9th largest county in the state of Ohio. Guess what? We have 3 senators coming all the time. The 3 of them that are running, they keep coming to Lorain County. I've met with Lieutenant Governor Houston. I won't say the business here in Avon Lake. I met him for coffee here a few times. I got to talk to him in February at another event in Avon Lake. And at that moment, I said, I leaned into him. I said, look, I know you guys want to develop here in Lorain County, but I want an interest-free loan for $45 million in order to acquire enough property so that we have the largest mega site in the Midwest. And we pulled that off. It should be closed in 2 months. It'll be interesting because once we have that mega site, what happens next? Everybody's going to come here because of what? We got land, we got water, we got people that work, we got affordable labor, affordable housing. There's a boom, I feel, coming to our county because we created this business-friendly atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And by creating that kind of an atmosphere, guess what? Businesses are going to come, and they're going to want to raise their families here. And the beauty of this is we got a fantastic college with Lorain County Community College.
Oh, you bet.
And when I came here, the first time I got elected, I was 38 years old, and Phil Baptist is a friend of mine. He says, I need you to come meet this guy, Dr. Church. I'm like, okay. So I got to meet Dr. Church, and he says, you know, we're trying to get money to start this thing called GLIDE, Great Lakes Incubator Development Enterprise Zone. I said, okay. I said, what do you got? So he showed me everything. I looked at it. I said, okay, how much do you need? He says, you know, like $2.5 million. I said, okay. And he just looked at me. Well, no, we just got turned down from the state of Ohio for $1.5 million. He goes, how are you going to do it? You're the lone Republican. I says, well, just, you know, watch. And so I put together an economic development plan.
Okay.
And all I knew is that if I could get one of the ladies to support it, I would. And I put together because I found over $6.5 million of extra money, and they shouldn't. And the problem is, in government, when you overtax people, you're supposed to give the money back. Well, how do you give back sales tax? You can't, right? So I found a way to give it back to the community through GLIDE and through downtown main streets. And then I did some other things because this other new thing in 2000 was a thing called the internet. And so we had a study done about how do you get internet access to the whole county. And so we did all this economic development programs I got national awards for our Main Street programs, national awards for the Glide program. And it was funny because we put the Glide program in place, which is for entrepreneurs. It was it was easy to pass. It passed 2-1. Betty Blair joined us on that vote. And it started out slow, but it started to work, right? What's amazing to me is I come back 20 years later, and I got to tour Glide. And the companies that they've helped, we're talking almost $983 million that has been invested in companies in our area because of Glide.
Okay.
They got the Desich Center. They got the SMART program. The Big Ten, including Michigan, they come to Lorain County Community College because of the systems and for the chip manufacturing that they do there. Nobody does what they do. And because of what we did, we are now, when businesses come to move here, it's Lorain County Community College that attracts them.
Okay.
Because they're training today's labor force. What they are looking for today is being done at Lorain County Community College. And so to me, it was kind of cool to start something, 23 years ago and be a part of that whole thing with the college. And then I come back and I got the tour. I'm all bug-eyed like, this is awesome, and I'm very proud that, one vote per precinct made that happen. Which means it was what? Growth for our county versus the other vote, for the Justice Center saved $25 million, right? So one person can make a difference, one vote can make a difference. And there's just so much things like that I've just been very proud of to be a part of because our county has a lot of great workers and it's a great team and we have a great team in place right now. And I could go 2 more hours on just our teams and what they're doing,
Okay.
So.
Now, GLIDE stands for, I want people to remember
Great
that.
Lakes Incubator, I think Development Enterprise.
Okay.
So.
Well, it sounds like a great program, and it's worked out perfectly.
I'll spell it out in my book. I do have a book coming out, hopefully in June. It's called More at War, My Fight for the Republic at the County Level.
Okay.
So I'm almost done with it, and I do a lot of details on the GLIDE program, a lot of details on all these issues and drama, and it's going to be exciting.
Okay, I would think other counties would be looking at Lorain County Community College and the GLIDE program as a model.
Oh, yeah. Well, what's amazing is the state of Ohio didn't give the college any money, right? A year later, in 2002, 2003, right around there, Governor Taft came to Lorain County to kick off his third frontier, which was pretty much GLIDE. So what happened was this. Lorain County, once again, was the leader statewide in the future economy, which Dr. Church saw that. He saw where we were heading as an economy, and he and our college, the president and the college took advantage of it, and they ran with it. And again, it's a great tour to go out there and to see the kind of activities that are going on.
I have a lot of respect for Roy Church.
Oh, yeah.
Now, tell us about the business creation and retention department you created in Lorain County. Do I have that right?
No, I didn't create it. What I was a part of was the Port Authority back in the first term. The commissioners in '99 voted for it, but did nothing. When I took office, like part of the economic development package,
yes,
we funded the Port Authority for $1.5 million.
Okay.
And so we started the Port Authority out, which today, they lent to Bendex, $80 million. That's an attractive tool to bring businesses here.
I got
Our
you.
community development program, we have some strong people working there, and that's where they go out and they talk to businesses. For example, I won't name the name of the business. They're in Elyria, and they were going to move to Mexico. They had like 20 employees. They were going to create. They needed to get 20 more, and they were just struggling. And we got them working with Jobs Ohio. Mm-hmm. Our department got them a $100,000 grant, and they're staying here, and they're going to bring in another 20 jobs. That's 40 jobs we just saved. So that's the retention aspect of it. But in the meantime, what we're also doing, our group is going out and just acknowledging these other small businesses and thanking them and asking them, is there anything we can do for you?
Okay.
And that's a thing like people aren't used to seeing that. The government coming out and
helping you.
Yeah, helping you. Because, like Ronald Reagan said, that's the worst thing you want to see is the government coming in and saying, what can we,
Yeah, how can we help
you? Yeah. But our community development group of people are doing some great work, and they're going out in the communities, and that is the question they ask. What can we do to help you? What are your needs? Because everyone's focused on new businesses coming in. Well, I said we got to take care of the ones that are here and have gone.
Retain them, yeah.
You know, they've. Oh, I was thinking on that. Sorry. You know, they've rode up the good times and the bad. You know, what can we do to help you? You know.
Okay. Tell us about this year's bicentennial events.
Whoa, yeah.
And the activities of Lorain County Visitors Bureau.
Well, we got a lot happening, and I'm a segue to what's happening on April 8th here in Avon Lake. Okay.
Uh-huh.
We've been working for 2 years preparing for this eclipse. At the same time, a month later, we're going to have the bicentennial.
Okay.
And so for 2 years, we've been having meetings with the local police and fire and telling everybody, here's what's going to happen. Let's prepare. And it doesn't hurt to be over-prepared for the possibility of maybe 100,000 people coming if it's a cloudy day. But if it's a day like today, which is sunny and out, we could
Even
have
more,
maybe 500,000 to 800,000. And so we went out to other communities in Tennessee in which they had eclipse, and the people were basically just stop, and it took like 11 hours to get out of town. And so we want to make sure that the public are aware that, you know what, hunker down, you know, get some, you know, food and water and enjoy it. And if you're in Avon Lake and you went to the Brew Fest, hopefully you got those eclipse gas glasses because I was passing them out there, okay?
Right. I got
You
a couple
some?
of them.
Okay. Well, then on May 24th, we're going to be celebrating 200 years of Lorain County. We were formed as a county government in 1824. And there was a meeting. We actually have the minutes from that meeting.
Wow.
And what we did on that meeting, I shouldn't say that because I wasn't here, but we actually appointed a treasurer. So they had their meeting in 1824 on May 24th, which is this year. It's on a Friday. We're going to have some events downtown Elyria. We're going to probably reenact it and have some fun. We're trying to march. We're going to have a band playing that night at the square. So there'll be a lot of activities. But the main thing is there's a lot of, I call it trash and trinkets. We're going to have a lot of bicentennial trinkets. We're going to have a lot of that stuff. It was last year at the fair. There'll probably be some more at the fair. And we're going to finish up the bicentennial with the Gold Star Family Memorial. Now that's going to be done, I believe, sometime in September, I think the 29th. And we're going to start out on the we've been celebrating the 200th anniversary, but we're going to have the event on May 24th, reenact the meeting. There'll be some other tours and stuff like that. And then on the 29th, the Gold Star family is something that honors the families of those people that we lost overseas or in wars.
Understand.
And we're going to be number 13 in the state. And it's just an honor to be a part of that. So what happened with the Visitors Bureau, that's a bed tax. There was some money in there that we found they started some other accounts that was supposed to be used for memorials that never was. So we took there was 130,000 that we pulled out of there, and as a Visitors Bureau, we gave that to the Veteran Service Commission to say, we want to be a part of this. You know, a lot of the legions and VFWs are all throwing money in too. It's a great community event, and kind of stay tuned for that. That's how we're going to finish up the bicentennial. So we're going to kind of start it off, even though we've been celebrating it with trash and trinkets. But on the 24th is when the meeting was, and then we're going to finish it up on the 29th of September, right around there.
Okay. Well, I asked this question of every interviewee. In summary, what makes sense to you and what doesn't?
What makes sense to me?
Yeah.
And what doesn't?
Yeah.
How do you answer that question?
Well, you can take a stab at it.
In what context? Like in government? I can tell you right now.
I would say in Lorain County government. That would be a good.
In county government,
point.
what makes sense? There's a lot of hardworking people in our county government.
Okay.
And they don't get enough recognition. You know, people always, government this, government that. But that's not true. Without those hardworking people, you wouldn't have a judicial system. You wouldn't have job and family services taking care of the people that need to be taken care of. The thing is, there's so much distrust,
of government
that people are coming to our meetings demanding, public records on this, public records on that. Well, what I've noticed is that people aren't really trying to hide anything. We're just, it's just hard when you're getting 10 requests a day as commissioners, as judges, as prosecutors. Everyone's getting them, and it just takes up so much time. It's really a waste of time, but people have the right because they need to trust their government.
Okay.
And I'm hoping, You know, this is a big election year. You know, we're going to see, are we going to be moving forward? You know, with more, like Marty Gallagher's running for office. He's a business owner.
Right.
And I'm running for re-election, business owner, and Jeff's there. He's not running because he's good for another 2 years. You know, do you want to move forward with a mindset of business so that we can keep running our county like a business, bringing businesses into our county to create more jobs so people can work and people can have, you know, be able to afford homes? I mean, that's what we're about. And that's how I see we should be, like the foundation and helping people wherever we can.
Okay.
Without interrupting their lives. So,
Okay.
I don't think I answered the question, did I?
Yeah, yes, you did. I think that the voters of Lorain County should be grateful that someone of your caliber is running for office and
just a
will
regular-
help us in the future.
I'm just a regular guy, Rudy.
Okay. Well, you obviously are passionate and you
Thank
make a lot of the right decisions, and
I try.
you look at the future of the county and the residents, and those are of concern to you. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, I thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions, our email addresses will appear at the bottom of the screen. Certainly, we're available. And if you know an interesting person or would like to appear on the show yourself, please send us your confirmation, your communication information. And remember, seatbelts save lives.
The preceding program was presented to you by a community producer. The statements, views, and opinions expressed were not necessarily those of ALC TV or the City of Avon Lake.